You appointed the CEO of the Giving Movement.
This is a brand that's completely word of mouth. Giving is not just the output, it's part of the complete DNA of the brand. I don't care about the title of CEO. My husband always jokes and says, "Good morning, CEO." And then when I ever go to friends' houses, for dinners, and they're like, "Ahla wa sahla bis CEO."
Yeah.
I married a very confident man, alhamdulillah.
So which boss is this?
This was Rani.
This was Rani.
I know he's a fan of you.
I don't know where he gets that from. Must be crazy.
I just love your energy.
Malesh, Luca, malesh.
I don't want to judge anybody that did this or that.
We do secretly.
Of course.
Have you ever thought about making it transparent how much you want to give back?
It's not about the how much, it's what impact are you creating. The school and how it's up and running in New Delhi. The students and how that changed their lives. The clean water that is happening in these places.
Are you a feminist?
And yes, definitely I'm a feminist. Our Palestinian culture puts women here. How can I sit here and be grateful and safe when I see people from my lineage being destroyed?
So how are you dealing with it? Today's guest is Rania El Khatib. Rania is the CEO of the Giving Movement. She has over 20 years experience in media, retail, luxury and transformation, and she absolutely loves championing purpose-driven brands and pushing reinvention. Now, amidst the regional conflict and its repercussions, Rania and I talk pretty openly about the state of retail, how it will evolve and the challenges ahead. For any CEO of a local business, from the outside at least, these are really tough times. It takes strong leadership, clear focus, and a strategic ability to navigate change. And of course, you need lots of resilience. Now, Rania is proudly from this region, and resilience is something she absolutely does not lack. So let's get straight into it.
Rania El Khatib spent over 2 decades shaping the Middle East's retail landscape, from launching iconic luxury concepts like level shoes for the Chalhoub Group to becoming one of the region's most seasoned brand strategists. Today, she leads the Giving Movement, a UAE-born, sustainably made fashion brand that launched in 2020, a brand built on the belief that purpose and profitability don't just coexist, they power each other.
Welcome to the hot seat, Rania.
Oh, I just love your energy this morning.
Man, are you a morning person or not?
I am. Once I'm up.
Okay.
Once I'm up, once I have my coffee. But yeah, I just love people with energy.
Yeah, it's good, right? So you're not typically a morning person?
No, I mean, Anwar, my husband usually wakes up extremely early, works out, and by the time he's done is when I'm waking up to work out. Okay. So he's really, really early. And yeah, he knows not to give me that whole good morning. Yeah. Singing.
Just cool it.
Yeah, give me time to wean into the morning.
When I used to work, I used to know my team who hated morning eatings, right? And I used to do it deliberately. Like, right, I'm gonna attack.
No. You wouldn't do it to your wife, would you?
It depends. Because, look, I'm really happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here.
How have you been keeping? I know it's a big question because there's been a lot going on in 2026. So how has 2026 been for you so far?
Oh my God. You know what? I'm usually a very resilient person. I've learned this at a very young age and nothing gets me. And this year I was so excited and I was going, and even in my speeches to the team, I'm like, the year of the horse, it starts at the end at the end of February, we're ready for this. Kicks it. And I'm like, okay, fine. Yalla, we can do this. We've done it before. We've done it before actually, that's just, but now I feel deflated. Khalas, enough is enough.
The thing is, you started the year on such a high, right? You were appointed the CEO of the Giving Movement. It's an amazing thing, right? So you're going in with full gusto.
Yeah, and I moved homes, and then a huge change in the family because we brought my mom from Montreal to live with us, and there were so many new things, and I'm very spiritual, and I've told you this before. And I really believe, I like storytelling. So I like the idea that last year was the year of the snake and it was all about shedding. And this year is the year of the horse and it's just about doing. So I was ready to do, all of a sudden I was like, no, sit down.
So the horse became a pony.
We're calling him a donkey, right? We're calling him a
jahash.
Yeah. That's the nice word to say it in Arabic.
So let's kick off with arguably the biggest mug I've ever had on this show. Rania, WTF, man. WTF, what's going on?
Yeah, that was a gift from my ex-boss.
Okay, what does it say? I can't actually read it.
Can I?
Yeah.
Okay, so this says this is a giant cup of beep the boss.
Wow.
Yeah, and
I love that you beeped yourself. I love that, yeah.
Yeah, I beeped myself just so that you don't
Love
beep.
that.
Yeah.
That's huge. So which boss is it?
This was Rani.
This was
I
Rani.
got this a couple of weeks ago and I thought it was just hilarious.
It's massive.
Yeah.
You could honestly,
But think about it. Like, how many cups of coffee do you have in the morning?
Yeah, I mean, with that one, you probably don't need to fill up even halfway.
Exactly.
What was he like as a boss at Rani? Because I know he played a big impact on your life, right?
I mean, Rani was a good friend as a boss. And I think that that's good. You know, the older you get, the most important thing is that you connect on a human level. And that was where my respect came from. It was from the human side, and he was excited to go and he wanted to do things, and I just need that kind of.
There's that doing again.
Yeah, exactly.
Feeling that
exactly, and there was the no BS type of attitude, and very well respected. You know, we're very similar in age, so for me it was easy.
You're both 35.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the Arab charm is there. Malesh, Luca, Malesh.
Yeah.
But he's a big fan. He's a fan of the show, by the way.
Is he?
He's a fan and a friend of the show.
I know he's a fan of you.
Yeah. I don't know where he gets that from. It's great. He must be crazy. Bad judgment. Yeah. What about you as a boss? Because look, he obviously bought that for you because you are a effing boss. So what kind of boss are you, Rania? What would people say about you?
Well, recently it was really nice because somebody, said in front of a colleague of mine, you're so lucky to be working with her. And she said, yeah, we really love working with Rania. She gets it. She gets shit done.
Yeah.
But she also does it calmly. And that shocked me to a certain extent, because obviously this was a journey to get to. To be able to be a calm boss means that you are confident and comfortable and you know how to manage things under stress. Yeah. And I remember, if you take me 20 years ago, I used to look up to female bosses that were able, or female or male bosses that were able to lead with calm. Because, a lot of bosses, especially maybe, I'm not going to say in our region because the US, God knows, and I mean, we see it every day right now with their leadership. It's all about, stomping feet, stomping fists and stuff. And to do it calmly, I think that was a huge compliment.
Yeah. Look, the challenge you have is you're a new CEO, right? You've been in the C level for a while, but as a CEO, it's when you have the E after the C, it's a bit challenger. But in 2026, to start your CEO-hood, if you like, in these circumstances, and to remain calm.
Yeah.
I mean, so you know what I mean? There's an inexperience there as a CEO, and there's it's a huge challenge that you have. So how are you dealing with it?
Well, honestly, I think that every challenge I had was huge. I don't care about the title of CEO. I know that it got a lot of attention, and my husband always jokes and says, "Good morning, CEO." And then when I ever go to friends' houses, for dinners, and they're like, "Hello, Sahla, CEO."
Yeah.
But no, I've always taken big challenges, and they're all relevant to that, the time in my life. But when we built Level Shoes, yes, I was called general manager, but I was still the CEO and the head of that project. And it was a huge challenge.
Yeah.
So I take the responsibility of leading people extremely seriously. I take the responsibility of managing other people's money very seriously. So yeah, it is a challenge. But I take it a day at a time because I have, I build a vision, I build the dream, I build the long term, because without it, the path is not clear. And it's very important that we have a target.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's day by day. What are we doing today? What have we achieved? It's getting the right troops around me. Yeah. Designing that team is extremely important. Every level of my career has always been what made me fail or win. How assertive I am about the talent that's around me.
So it's a big mug, and it does say you are the boss, right? Have you ever felt a day that you didn't feel comfortable with you had a bit of imposter syndrome, that you weren't up to the level?
Yeah, for sure. I don't have it anymore.
Okay.
I worked a lot on myself throughout the past 5 years, I would say, a lot. And, coaching helped me a lot with that.
What were you working on?
Internship.
What were you working on?
I was working on, basically the result was to become the most authentic version of myself. And once you're there, you don't feel that imposter syndrome as much because you don't care what other people think about you as much.
Which is easy to say.
Very, yeah.
Incredibly difficult to do.
Absolutely.
Everyone cares about what other people think. And we work so hard to try to not have that in the back of your mind. Image is important. When you become a C-level, everyone's looking up to you, what you wear, what you say, how you say it. All eyes are on you. Plus, elephant in the room, you're a woman, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think globally, the average of women in CEO level roles is around 7% for the FTSE 100 companies. So you're still in the minority. So you have probably even more attention on you. So how did you deal with that?
Look, I don't love the attention. Although it doesn't look like that because
we're here.
Yeah, and I'm very comfortable doing it and whatever. I love the attention on my projects. I love the attentions, on collections that I create. I love the attention on all of that. But the minute that and this is not what I mean by attention. But then when I see a lot of people praising me and saying Mabruk and congratulations, that makes me feel uncomfortable because I never feel that it's, worth the congratulations. I'm just living my life. I'm just doing my best. Like congratulate me when I mediate a peace deal, or congratulate me when, I found a cure or supported, something that is leading to saving lives.
Yeah.
So with that, I could tell you that I've had the attention on me since I was a very young girl. The first child, the oldest daughter, my mom was extremely extroverted, loved hosting, loved dressing me up, loved teaching me how to dance, she was always in the limelight.
Yeah.
So I was never uncomfortable, being out there.
You watched a lot of fashion shows as well when you were younger.
I watched a lot of fashion shows. I did a lot of fashion shows. I was in a lot of dance choreographies. I was on stage a lot. And I was pushed by my mom, at a certain point. I'm like, khalas, enough, especially when you get to those weird teen years where you can't stand yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, the thing is that it all has to do with how you feel inside. And I know this is cliche, but it's so true. Because whenever I was unhappy, for any type of reason, my relationship with my husband didn't thrive. My relationship with my team didn't thrive. And I was fighting with my children, and maybe with some friends, and whenever I felt good inside, then things kind of come in place.
The best version comes out for other people. For
other people, and then for me, right? Because when you don't have that toxic environment around you, you're thriving. You usually shy. I usually become, I want to hide when I'm not comfortable.
Yeah. So how did you do that? Because it's very easy to set to become the best version of yourself. Is it a work in progress, or is it something that you feel like because you talk a lot about transformation, you've done a lot of transformation, but internally, have you felt you have changed over the last few years?
Yeah, for sure.
And even in the last few months, dare I say it, have you learned a lot about yourself in times of adversity and challenge when everyone's looking up to you? How has that added another dimension, if you like, to Rania as a person and as well Rania the leader?
So to answer the first part of your question, it was I did a lot of therapy. I started therapy in 2011, and it took a lot for me to go to therapy because it was a big taboo. Yeah. In my family, it was a big taboo. It was always like, what's wrong? Like, why does she need therapy? She has everything going for her. Like, I would hear them say that about other people. Why is she depressed? Like, what's wrong? She has everything. Mashallah, look at her. She has her health and she's gorgeous.
Were you depressed?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't know it was depression at the time. It was post, having my first daughter, and I was trying to prove that I could do everything. And I was just, and we were building our life. We were a young couple. I would get angry at a lot of things, and I would lose my temper at a lot of things. And eventually and the silliest things. If I remember, we laugh about it now, me and Anwar, but I remember one Valentine's, he took me to, my mom was in town. She was staying with Aya, and we went to, I can't remember, Ras Al Khaimah or something like this. And he put my gift on the bed, as that was his point of surprising me.
It's romantic.
Yeah.
I've done that.
Yeah. And then he wasn't there. And I come in and I'm like, what is this? And he goes, your gift. He's like, I'm like, you couldn't give it to me by hand?
Okay.
And then I realized, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And he was the most patient man, the most confident man. I married a very confident man, alhamdulillah, because I don't know who would have put up with me during that phase. And then I realized, you know what? I'm going to go. A good friend of mine, pushed me towards that. And it's always good for you to have a reference of somebody that you know, because at that time, social media was still not existent. So you didn't have a lot of people that would speak up and speak out about these things. And I went, and it started, and it changed the way, that my life transformed in like 6 months. I was able to make decisions about work. I decided to go back home for 3 months to Montreal. I worked on a lot of things on myself, and I was just renewed. Literally, it was a new phase after that. And it was after that I started Level Shoes. So I came into it with a lot of strength. But therapy is not just a one-off thing. Right? Some people choose it as therapy. Some people do yoga. Some people do go to Peru. Some people do so many different things. And I realized then that's, now I know the signs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask me the past couple of months, how has it been? I won't tell you that it was easy, because like you said, we started on a high. And then now, more than ever, it's a situation that is so out of our control, and we don't know how to fix it, right? The global situation. Whereas, and I wrote about this yesterday in a story on Instagram, because I needed to verbalize what I was feeling. Because during COVID, we knew you stay at home, you won't get sick. You do this, you won't get it. We had very clear directions of what was happening and how we were dealing with it. And it was a global phenomenon where everybody was fighting the same enemy, and everybody, was looking towards. So it was clearer for me, or it felt a little bit safer. But now, it's taken a hit on me, I would say, emotionally. It's very hard to be able to not understand what's happening. You get so many different conflicting views, and then you have the analysts, and then you have the pessimists, and then you have the over-optimists, etc.
And it's all biased, right? They all have their own subconscious bias they bring into it.
Absolutely, which wasn't there before, other than the anti-vaccine movement. That was the only detractor to what was happening. Today, like you said, there's bias, there's emotion, there's, and there's a lot of things they don't want us to see, right? So we're never going to see the full truth of what's happening.
And also what you do see, you have to judge, is it actually being true?
Exactly.
So 5 fingers, 6 fingers, 4 fingers, a coffee gate.
Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, the memes have been really funny though.
They have been. I've laughed a few times. I've realized I haven't asked you for your safe word yet. So I know we've revealed quite a lot. Yeah. Thank you. What is your safe word?
I'm going to use an easy one, Lulu.
Lulu? Yeah. That's your daughter?
Yeah, that's my youngest.
What does she mean to you?
I mean, both my daughters mean the world to me. They're just they're my mirror. They're my compass. They're also my safe place. They're my happy place.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So when we talked about, you were talking a little bit about the uncertainty of what's going on, and the last 2-3 months have been quite challenging for you. How much additional has it been in terms of being difficult, because you're originally Palestinian and Lebanese, right? So that additional layer being what's going on in Lebanon, what's going on in Gaza, as well as trying to keep an eye on what's going on here in Dubai with the day-to-day. I mean, there's a lot of eyes, there's a lot of emotions, if you like, from your side, I'm guessing, that's spread across the region.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, first of all, and this is not a plug whatsoever, I just feel extremely grateful to be here. I've been in the UAE for 24 years, and I've had my children here, and I've met my husband here and built my career here. So I'm just so, so, so blessed. And I know many people feel the same way, that I can at least shield myself and my family, as selfish as that may sound, from what's happening in the world. Having said that, like you said, my father is Palestinian American. My mom is Lebanese Canadian. And I mentioned American and Canadian because these were countries that adopted them, right? And therefore, this is where they created that safety for us. And for us, it was in Canada. And my mom is from the south. She's from an area called Zreriye, which I had never been to, had never seen, had never really heard of, other than now when I'm seeing when they're trying to annex the south.
Yeah.
The name of Stroy is coming out. And I'm like, and between myself and I sit and I think, wow, will there be a day where, I don't know if it's going to be in my lifetime, where there'll be a day where these will be like the, Ottoman Empire, legacy stories. There was once a village called Nablus, or there was once a village called Zreriye. So yeah, it is difficult, but it's mostly from an identity point of view and feeling, how can I sit here and be grateful and safe when I see people from my lineage, being villages and people being destroyed. I was watching that and I couldn't even repost it. I'm very active on social media and I try to at least post mostly the human aspect of things because I don't want to get into politics. I don't want to get into, things that will spark divide. And hopefully anybody that sees the human element should not be divided on what's right and what's wrong. But when I saw that 18 months old boy that was returned to his mom and apparently was tortured with cigarette burns on his leg, that's when I'm like, this is not possible that we're actually still debating if this is genocide or not, or if this is wrong or if this is right, and blaming some people and some others and saying we have the right to do this and the right to do that. So yeah, I try not to focus too much on it on my everyday to be able to accept humans and accept my fate being such a privileged one. That Russian roulette of being born into a privileged family. But yeah, it's hard to see.
Do you have any internal conflict? Because like you said, you were a second generation adopted American and Canadian, right? At the same time, if you like, indirectly, they are against what's going on in Gaza and also in Lebanon. So do you have that internal conflict?
I had the internal conflict whenever I worked for companies that didn't have the right, or if you want, in what I see, the right position. Now that I work for the giving movement and, what we stand for and what the founders stood for before me, I feel a lot more aligned. Look, I grew up in Canada and there are amazing Canadians and I know amazing Americans and I know amazing. So it's not the people, it's really the ideologies that are fed into uneducated and unexposed people that have created this, crazy leftist, movements that are scaring the whole world. Yeah. So I would hope that I'd keep putting myself around people that are wanting to educate themselves about what's really happening, and one day it'll just come out. So as there's that inner child in me that
you think it will come out? Do you think it will come out? Isn't the history's taught us that the winners always tend to ride there.
There's a difference between it coming out and between what's going to happen, right? Unfortunately, you're right. I think that greed and evil has taken out a lot of humanity.
You think it's winning? Is evil winning right now? If you look at the world, what's going on in the Middle East.
Right now it is. Yeah. But it's crazy because it's all perspective, right? I remember when I married Anwar, we got married in 2006. And like I said, my mom left Lebanon in 75. She went to Paris. She was very lucky that her father let her go and do her master's in Paris. It was where the war was starting and my father was in Paris. He was doing his master's. That's where they met. So we've never lived in Lebanon or lived in Palestine, but my mom always made sure, and my dad, that we go back to the region as often as possible. So when I married Anwar, I said to him, you know what? I really miss the 80s. It was so much more peaceful. And this is a man that grew up in Lebanon. And the 80s was probably the worst. He looked
not a friendly place.
He's like, what? He's like, what about 82? And what about, the invasion? And what about, I'm like, wow, it is perspective.
It is, so 100%.
So do I think, yes, I do think that there's some people around the world right now that don't see it. Probably they think they're winning.
The giving movement, you did mention it, and look, I love the brand. straight off the bat. So when I found out that you were becoming the CEO, and I bumped into, we were having at a bar. Yes, seems ages ago, right? And then we had the step interview together. Anyway, but when I found out you were now going to be leading the giving movement, when I aligned someone that, actually I quite like her, I quite like her vibe and energy, and I quite like this brand, and you put them together, I'm like, yes, I absolutely want to get you on the show. And it made a lot of sense to me. So before you joined, what was your impression of the brand? Because look, you're into branding, you're into, making sure that you transform certain companies from within or from outside. The giving movement was, from an outside, a massive disruptor, right, in the retail space. Absolutely. So how did you see it before you joined, and has the image changed since you joined?
So before I answer that, I want to say something. I was thinking the other day about how me and you met. And one thing that I really, really love is that so many times I'm sitting on my couch and I'm like, and I was going to cancel that day. I really didn't feel like going. It's just like not, I'm very social, but I'm also a homebody. Like I really enjoy my couch and my series. And
me too.
I just love them. Yeah. And I remember just thinking about how so many opportunities and relationships get built by just, being out there. You can't meet people. I know it's so basic to say you can't meet people when you're sitting on your couch, but you just can't. And it's just so cool. Fast forward to when we met, which was at this Ahlan 100 event. Yeah. And now we're sitting here. We've already had many interactions before this. So so if there's any message I've always given is never say no to meeting somebody. Never say no to go to, So you're always, and don't go and hide in your corner, because... And
never say no to Luca's Inside Track. That's what I'm taking from this conversation.
And then we had in common, by the way...
Yeah. A lot of friends.
No, but your cousin, who was, and I'm going to give a shout out to her, because Joe was the one that hired me at Shalhoub. Did I ever tell you?
No, you never told me.
He was my first boss at Shalhoub. Always laugh about it. Yeah.
Okay, he didn't buy you that mug though, did he?
No, he did not.
Did he get you any mug?
No, but he got me a huge opportunity by bringing me to the Shalhoub group.
See, we're good people, man. We're good people.
Yes, you are. So so to answer your question, how did I see the giving movement before coming? So the giving, you could not see the giving movement when it came out, right? It came out in 2020 during it started in 2020, but it was at the heart of the pandemic.
Your whole face and energy has changed, by the way.
Oh, really?
It's like lit up. It's lit up, yeah.
Yeah. So you always do something that makes you light up inside. So when I did, it was just like me, like everybody else, right? Everybody was on their phones, on their tablets. And this is the brilliant idea of Dawn, the founder at the time. It was just a basic t-shirt and a hoodie, right? Yep. And there was a few outfits here and there. But the idea was to understand the rise of, content creators and influencers. And, it wasn't about performance marketing. It wasn't about getting just the product perfect. It wasn't about getting the perfect customer experience. It was, I have something cool and I want everybody to know about it. And I'm going to flood everybody's phones and stuff with the right, and trust that content creators are going to create their way, so from that point of view, me, like everybody else, discovered it. And did I buy it? I don't remember buying it for myself. Yeah. I remember buying for my kids, for sure.
I bought a lot of stuff.
Yeah? At the beginning?
At the beginning. Yeah. I loved it. It was super I was going to wear it today.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't my style then.
Yeah.
Look, I'm wearing heels today, but you wouldn't see me wearing heels anymore. I'm now a sneaker girl that's always with my hoodies and stuff. I like to dress up. Yeah. But at that time, I was at the peak of my life. I
was going to say, Ahlan 100, you were dressed up that nice.
No, I love to dress up when I go out. But now I'm a lot more, since COVID, actually, that's a lot more relaxed. But I'm known for my 12-inch heels and blazers. So, and then I kept watching it. And as anybody that's passionate about brands or that builds brands, you look at it with your analytical eye and with your critical eye from the business side of things. And slowly, it was scaling, it was growing. It was, I had put it as a travel brand, because at that point, what you'd see is the whole family wearing the giving movement whenever they traveled. I wasn't a huge fan of big logos. So I didn't love the fact that the giving movement was across the back. Maybe that's why I didn't wear it as much, but I didn't mind my kids having that.
Yeah, you're right on the travel thing, just to touch in, because I associate also with travel. And there was only one other brand that I associated with travel, and that was Juicy. Juicy.
Yes, Juicy Couture.
Yeah, Juicy. That was the only other brand that I would see.
With Juicy across.
Yeah. But I used to associate it with fitness. I used to see the giving movement as sport and fitness. Are you active?
I'm very active.
Yeah.
Oh, I could be a lot more active. I'm active.
Okay. By the way, speaking of active, I have to tell you, I've had this for a few weeks.
The Aura Ring.
The Aura Ring.
Yeah, I love it.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I bought the first version when it came out.
It's much lighter than I thought. It looks quiet, but it's actually much lighter. But what I love about it is it helps with your tracking your stress levels, your fitness levels, your sleep levels, your recovery times. Basically, it tells you how to live your life.
And recently with the updates, your female cycle, which was...
I don't need to know about that. But
no, but that's for you. Yeah, that's we track it on our phones. So it's just important to also know.
No, but massive game changer. Look, are you a big fan of wearables in general? Yeah. Is that something that you think the giving movement somehow can align themselves with?
Look, we are
potential partnership or in giving movement.
100%.
Kind of what?
100%. Honestly, well, if you can, put in a word.
I'll see what I do.
See, the giving movement slogan is humanity in motion, and humanity in motion means so many different things. It means humanity as a humanity, and moving with purpose, but also, moving our bodies and wellness, and just always being on the go in the right places. So, again, fast forward, I kept watching and seeing where it went. And there was, the giving movement went through a big funding raise in 2022, I think. And I made sure to go to my investor friends and say, guys, you need to put your buck in this.
Did you really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And I said, look, this is a homegrown brand that's made it to a level of an international brand here.
Yes.
And people are choosing to wear it over other brands.
Yes, right.
So I'm like, put your money there, guys. We need it. And you need to invest in homegrown. And even, speaking to my boss at the time, or, I had left Chalhoub at the time, but he still will always be my boss and my mentor, Patrick Chalhoub. And so I kept an eye on it because I really believed in it. And I took a few investors, and the founder pitched to them. And then I know that they raised a very good amount of money, and, they started scaling and opening retail stores. So when I was approached, and it was confidential, and they said it's a homegrown brand. And I said, look, the only homegrown brand that I could see interest in coming in to play a role in is the giving movement. If in fashion, I'm saying. And so that's how it was. It was the giving movement. And I jumped, after checking with a few people I trust, I jumped on the opportunity to take it to that next level.
Did you ask Rani?
Of course, I asked Rani, but it was, and Rani's, with his brilliant creative mind is constantly sending me ideas and collaborations. I'm like, wait a bit. You just need to fix the foundation first. But it was when I sat down with Patrick that it gave me a retailer, a brand builder from, that industry. Mm-hmm. And that knows me extremely well. It was in June, and I started, I think, in beginning November. But in June, before I went on holiday, I had started the discussions, and I sat down with him. And you know how you say you just lit up? The way he lit up. And he said, yes. I'm like, okay, that's all I needed to see. The rest will figure itself out.
Yeah, love that. Are you ready to take charge of the show?
Yeah.
The bag is yours. Oh. The inside bulls are waiting for you. There's 6 of
them. Do I just take it?
Yeah, there's 6 questions in there. Okay. They're all nuanced to you.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hope they're clear.
Voila.
The idea was to put them around in golf balls, so to put a long-winded question.
Yeah. Do you play golf?
I love golf.
Really?
Yeah.
You know that I don't. I used
no Palestinians or Lebanese like golf. Well, but Americans and Canadians, they do.
No, but a lot here now. I know a lot more in my, YPO network. Yeah. I've met, and a good friend of mine, Mustafa, is obsessed. Like, if he doesn't go every Sunday, and then they're teaching their sons, their sons are getting into it.
It's so good. You can play until you're 70, 80. That's what I love about golf.
Yeah, but it's becoming younger. We used to see it as an older person's, the place where you go and network, right? And it's just like so serious. But now people do it. It's a meditation also type of. No?
Yeah, look, it's therapeutic. You have to hit the ball as hard as you can, and nothing else matters. So just hit that ball, that direction, and you're fine. It is therapeutic, but it's in a way because you forget about everything else.
Exactly.
It's not about the ball. It's just about what the ball stops you from thinking about everything, all the other problems that's going on.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
All right, what have you got for me?
75% of everyone on this planet is terrified of public speaking. And 41% of people are more scared of public speaking than actually dying. I mean, those numbers are just crazy. But the reality is everyone feels that sense of anxiety when they have to open their mouth and talk, especially in front of other people. Whether you're on stage, whether you're doing a podcast, or whether you're trying to pitch to investors in a boardroom, it's all part of that same anxiety. My name is Luca and my job is to help people feel comfortable with who they are. So when they speak authentically, and they don't copy anybody else. In 2026, there's never been a more important time to differentiate yourself in a personal setting, but also in a business setting. With Master Pitch training, we unlock your real voice to get you feeling comfortable for any situation.
Do we transform from the inside out or the outside in?
Okay, so there's layers. There's always layers, Rania.
Yeah.
So transformation, you've been known for a very long time. You love doing it. You also talked a little about therapy as well and all that kind of stuff. So, and with everything that's going on from the external perspective, how much does the external dictate that we need to transform inside? Or actually, do we transform first inside to help impact the outside?
Okay, so I'm a firm believer, okay, that you have to design your environment for your best potential.
Okay, what does that mean?
Okay, it means that, and again, I'm going to use another analogy, that if the soil is not fertile, you're not going to grow.
Okay.
So if you don't choose where you want to live, again, I hate saying these things sometimes, Luca, because I feel like it comes from a privileged place, but I have
to shoot it out, be authentic, just say it.
Yeah, I have to say what I know, right? What my experience has, and a lot of people don't have this choice, right? But if you have the choice to decide where you can live, who you marry, which everybody has a choice. Everybody knows people. See. But anyways, who you're going to marry, okay? Who you're going to be friends with, where you're going to work, who your colleagues are, who your boss is, etc. These are the externals, in my opinion, that how much social media you use, what you watch, who you follow on social media, and all of that, how you get people, again, from a privileged lens. What kind of support can I create around myself for me to be the best version of myself? You know, I'm a woman. I started working very early on. I had my first child at the age of 31. Okay. Which is not super young, but I was traveling nonstop. Okay. For work. I was, handling Ralph Lauren. I had to go to Milan every month, etc., for 2 weeks at a time. So how I had not the support system around myself, I wouldn't have been able to. And I think when you mentioned earlier about the CEOs and what the percentage of women, it is because the environment does not help them continue. And because a lot of these women decide, I don't want it. Not everybody wants to go through that. So that's where your external is something you can manage. What you can't manage is the macro, right? And the things that are happening today. So this can have, if you know your internal clock or your internal compass, and you understand the triggers, if these are always triggering something that's very bad in you and transforming you from the within into a version you don't love, then you need to change the outside.
What triggers you in a good way or in a bad way?
Toxicity, toxic people with bad intentions.
Have people trying to tear you down?
Absolutely.
Now, when you're a CEO, do you feel there are snide kind of comments for it? You know, is there jealousy? Is there...
Maybe it's there, but now my environment is so much smaller and so much more curated than it ever was. So I would say now probably a lot less. Before, yeah, I mean, everything that's around you that you think you should accept, you know, in order to get what you want, then you learn, right? The journey is all about learning about these. You have to experience them before you get there.
That's it. Does the experiences, do they have the biggest impact on you, or is it an internal change, right, that you will decide consciously to make that will have the biggest impact?
So like I said, like when I have found myself on 2 points in my life where I have reached that, tipping point. And the tipping point is always because of the effect of the environment on yourself, mental health, physical, anxiety is stress, inflammation, my face, my acne, my hair, whatever it is, right? And these are signs. So a lot of times we're like going in motion and we live an automated life that we don't listen to these signs. So therefore, after one experience of understanding and making that relationship, the triggers. If you keep ignoring these triggers, then it's going to continue on happening. And this is the difference between the awareness, the self-awareness, and having that self-awareness.
Yeah. Talking about your own transformation, so your own self-awareness, what was the Rania like when she was in the early 30s when you were having your child, right? Versus the Rania now? What kind of transformation have you been in?
So I remember when people would ask me back then, because I was starting out and, I remember there was always the woman that decided they're going to have their children and quit work, okay, and take care of that. And then the women like me that were not many at that time. Now there's a lot more with the younger generation that decide that no, they can do both and balance it, never equally. You could never balance it equally, but like balance it. And at that time, that 30-year-old wanted to do everything. And I had huge expectations, too big. And I remember in my first therapy, the biggest learning I got from my therapist then was I went in thinking I didn't buy the house yet. I didn't do this. I didn't, I can't remember what are all the milestones that I had in my mind. She said, who created these milestones for you? Like, who created all of these? And I didn't realize that it has a lot to do with culture, with family expectations, with transgeneration.
Was there any guilt? Was there any guilt there?
All the time.
So you look at your reactions there. So what are you feeling guilty?
Oh my God. Even now, I had dealt with the guilt when it comes to husband and kids.
So what's the guilt? Explain it. What do you feel?
Now?
Well, when it was back then, however...
Oh my God, you're always feeling that whenever you're somewhere, you're not giving enough in the other place, Whenever I was traveling in Milan and being in the most beautiful showrooms and, going to the nicest restaurants, I mean, fashion is fun, there's a lot of difficult things that we do behind the scenes, but we also go to the most amazing places. Having my husband being alone with a newborn, having his sisters fly in from Lebanon to come and help with the newborn, knowing I have a stranger during the day also at home at the time. These kind of things, and a lot of societal pings.
What about subconsciously from your parents' side? You moved around quite a lot, right? You were in Saudi, you went to Canada, and you came back to the region. Did you feel obliged to take care of your parents or to sort of be the one, if you like, that is going to look after them when they're older? I mean, you just mentioned now you brought your mum from Montreal here, right? So how much is that also directing you?
It's just crazy because where I am today versus when I was 30, when I was 30, my mom was still, she was a force to be reckoned with. She still had her health. She still had her financial stability. And I felt extremely guilty when I was 24 when I moved here alone. And I'll never forget her standing with my baby sister crying at the terminal in Montreal because she knew I wasn't coming back. Although I had said I'm going to go and explore, but she knew I wasn't coming back.
Yeah, you were done.
And the past 10 years have been really tough because I have kids that are growing. I had a new child, right? Because Lulu's 9. I have a teenager that's coming into her, she's now 16 and a half, but she was, so the past 10 years there was the kids. And I know this is extremely common. I'm not a psychologist, but they would tell you this is just the huge phenomenon of where we are, where we have aging parents and children. And the guilt is, do you give more attention to your family or the one that raised you, right? Do I go and spend my very little holidays that I have a year showing my kids beautiful places around the world and creating memories? And then I feel guilty about not seeing, because my parents live in Canada. So in Canada, you're talking about 13 hours to get there. I'm not going to go there for 3 days.
Yeah.
I wish they were in Lebanon. I wish they were here where I could, go every other weekend. So that guilt was there. Come full circle today. My siblings and I made the decision to bring my mother, who's very advanced in Alzheimer's stage, to bring her. It was a huge adventure, actually. It was so crazy how we actually did it. And she arrived here 2 days before February 28th is when the Iran war started. And today I feel extremely blessed that I get to have, as difficult as it is, and God knows, but now I have everything that I need to have under one roof.
How much is that control element important to you? Because when you say everything under one roof, you feel you can control the environment for your mom, your kids, your husband.
Look, I would say, and this goes to every woman today, and I think this is our superpower as leaders in organizations as well, is we're naturally born to nurture and to take care. And it's less about control. It's more as I know that she needs to be with me because I know I can give her what she needs right now.
So then this makes you ask the question, do women feel more guilt than men because of that?
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I remember taking a class in university in Montreal called feminism. Okay. Or I can't remember, but it was.
Are you a feminist?
But see, this is where I'm telling you, yes, definitely I'm a feminist. But what does a feminist mean nowadays?
Depends on who you ask.
You know, exactly.
Yeah.
But then I was like this, 20-year-old girl that's always, very much. And then my father is a Palestinian man. Our Palestinian culture puts women here. Palestinian women, if you know them, they're rock stars.
Yeah.
There's a movie, and I moderated the Q&A after the movie with the director, Anne-Marie Jesser, and the movie is called Palestine 36. What I loved, did you see it?
I haven't seen it, but I know it had a lot of support.
So for me, it was, and I said this to her, it was finally we have the Schindler's List of Palestine because it has the history and to understand how it all started.
And it's fully accurate. It's been documented.
Fully accurate with even most of actual footage.
Okay.
It's really, really good. But my point was that in that movie, maybe because, Anne-Marie did not feel, maybe that's a bias of just like natural, because she's a woman, there was a lot of very strong female characters in that movie.
Yeah.
And I remember growing up, my amtos, so my dad's side, I had one amto Haifa, Allah yarhama, and she was just something else, and
force of nature.
Yeah.
Let's go with another ball.
Yes.
We need to power through these, Rania.
Okay, let's do that.
Let's power through them.
Okay. Confidence is being encouraged, but caution remains. What will shape retail and at what impact?
Confidence is being kind of saying like, top-down government, go to the malls, go and shop.
Scenario.
Yeah, with everything that's going on now. Everyone's saying, come on. Business as usual. Let's come on. I mean, I think after day 2 of the drones and the missiles, the government was encouraging people to go to the malls. You had His Royal Highness also went in, and absolutely, it was great. So there is a real push to say, no, should have confidence. But the consumers are a little bit like, whoa, are we going to keep our jobs? What's going to happen? 1, 2, 3. So where do you see it all going, and what kind of impact is that going to have?
Look, there's definitely going to have, we're going to have an impact. We're having an impact.
How big are we talking? Like, give me a crystal ball.
Look, I've been through already the 2008 crisis and the COVID crisis in retail. And if I look back in history, and I relate it to fashion, for example, or to the behavior of people. And I'm going to say in consumerism, I'm going to say their lifestyle, because lifestyle is what's going to drive this, right? Are you going to go out again? Are you going to travel again? Are you going to, shop for parties again, or etc.? And there's always that moment that is like after World War II, there was that phase, and it changed the fashion of people, right? They started wearing less black, and they started wearing color. And
not today.
No, I know. Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love black.
Yeah.
Anyways, oh my God. But so yes, it's going to have an impact for sure. The brands that will, or the companies that will be resilient to this, are the ones that had a solid foundation, that were cash rich. Okay, that because at the end, or have a big backing, because the loss that we will see is mostly linked to the behavior of the consumer. Now, how can you see it through? You need to see it through, and you need to be resilient through this, because after this period will be the scale.
Mm.
After COVID, we saw that return and that shift, actually, a huge shift into people prioritizing lifestyle spending and travel and experiences after being locked in for so long.
So can I coin something now?
Yes, please.
A world exclusive.
Yes,
right?
yes.
You know how revenge travel was everything?
Yeah.
Right?
We're going to call it now.
We're going to call it revenge shopping, revenge mauling, revenge people.
Or
You know what I mean? Like
revenge fashion.
revenge. I love it. Just revenge in there.
Yeah.
You know, with Palestinian as well, the Lebanese, we put in there.
You see it now because what you're saying is that, yes, the government is, putting it out there, confidence, etc. But look at the patriotism that's coming out.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Our T-shirts at the Giving Movement that have Dubai and UAE on them,
Yeah.
are selling out because
It's amazing.
people are going to say, you know what, I'm going to support the country that's supporting me.
Yeah, you either double down or you leave, right? Some people have left, but more people have stayed.
Yeah,
and the people have stayed are hardened.
I mean, look, I don't want to judge anybody that did this or that, but I just don't
But we do secretly.
Of course.
Yeah.
But it's just like, don't go around right now. That's, I mean, I don't know if you saw like even Bloomberg and stuff like, halas, guys, why is it like such clickbait right now? Dubai has always been a very, very strong brand. And like every strong brand, it could be a personal brand, it could be if Rania falls tomorrow. And I'm going to say, I have a strong brand. People are waiting for me to see if I fail. What are people going to do? It's going to be clickbait. Oh my God, she did this or she did that. And that's what's happening right now here. And so I'm trying to shield myself from that. And when it comes to the brands that are, what they need to keep on doing today is they need to keep talking authentically to their community and shift the way they're doing things to fit the lifestyle of the community today.
So I don't think brands know how to talk authentically to consumers.
And these are the ones that are going to probably have a big issue during these downturns.
I think putting a nice little message of something, and they think they've ticked the box. I think it's just nonsense. I think people are getting smarter, wising up to it, especially Gen Alphas, man. They don't take any BS. Gen Z, same thing, but millennials, we can still. You're
cusp.
We're the cusp.
Gen X, millennial.
We're cuspers. But there was always e-commerce before. So before this, you were still having a challenge with the e-tail space versus bricks and mortar, right?
Exactly.
So how? Again, I have this theory. Again, world first. Luca's inside track. AI is forcing us to become more human.
Yeah.
Okay. Buying stuff online and letting your AI buy it for you, because by the way, we're this close to that happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mainstream of talking.
Yeah.
We will start to realize that actually we miss the human connection. Getting back to the mall, getting back to shopping, getting into trying stuff.
Yeah.
Russia the other day, she bought something. So this is the first time I bought something for myself in person for 2 years because she's been buying everything online.
Because now it's quieter in the malls.
Or because she's so used to buying things because of COVID, she never had to go to the mall anymore. She was buying everything online.
Oh, but the mall life before this period had gone back up.
Yeah, I'm talking about in her case, right? So she was, that behavioral change was created because of COVID. So what I think what's going to happen now is when you have people who are able to afford it and who are starting to think, we want human interactions, you're going to see more spike up. Events, experiences.
Absolutely.
That's how I see things
yesterday, again, people are not saying, I don't want to go. They're going to say, give me a reason to come.
Yeah,
I'm not going to just go right now.
Let's power on another ball.
Yes.
We've got 4 more. We're going to get through all of them.
When people boycott, what hurts more, brand and reputation damage or local profit loss?
Boycotting in the region. Some brands, because of the whole Palestine, Gaza war, they were like, we don't want to support these brands because somehow the money is trickled out from the top down to locals. But is it the local franchises that suffer, or can there be a reputational damage done to the brand itself?
That's such a good question because I remember that during the beginning of Gaza, October 7th, and my girls, they both very strongly, like a lot of young kids, they're just amazing, these kids. They all said, we're going to boycott Starbucks. And Starbucks was big with these kids, like the teenagers, they would leave school and go to Starbucks. I mean, it was always a line on our bus.
Yeah.
And we're going to boycott McDonald's, right? And both as a retailer, I know the owners of McDonald's in the region who are unbelievable people and who are definitely not, pro-Israel.
Yeah.
And I know, the owners and the distributors of Starbucks in the region who are not.
Are they conflicted? Do they feel conflicted?
I'm sure they do, and they tried and they did stuff. Again, I'm sure that, eventually things established. But then I go back to seeing the impact that some of these boycotts have had on the bottom line of, a company like Starbucks. And I say, you know what? No, it works.
Does it?
It does. And at home for us, okay, Anwar went and bought this new, we like from time to time having a soda.
Yeah.
So he moved us from, drinking Coca-Cola to drinking Al Khuzai.
We're drinking Al Khuzai as well. And Kinza.
Yeah.
We tried it's a Saudi brand, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
But see, Al Khuzai is from where?
Isn't it?
I think it's Saudi. I don't know.
Is it Saudi?
I don't know, but honestly, it was a very easy shift.
We did a taste test.
Yeah.
We did Pepsi, Coke, and Al Khuzai.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell really the difference.
Yeah. But see, and then what I love about what's happening with these things, and again, it's probably very separate, but it turned a lot of people into homegrown.
Local brands.
Exactly.
That's why I was saying yes to you beforehand. I'm a massive believer in local heroes.
Yeah.
I call them local heroes.
Like my teenager and her friends, they all go to Saddle.
Yeah.
I don't hear them saying, we're going to Starbucks anymore. Sorry, Starbucks, but
that's okay. It's okay. They'll move on.
Yeah.
So generally it works, but it can impact both brand reputation and also profits. But actually, profits bigger than we might think.
Mm-hmm.
I had Faris Al Hamadi come on the show.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that he thinks boycotts are a load of nonsense. He said, just because you have a watermelon, right, and you don't drink this, that's going to make any kind of impact. That you're supporting Gaza.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that actually does have an impact.
I mean, look at Huda Beauty. It's big. Yeah. It has big resonance. Yeah. And that's why they're so scared of the BDS movement. Why do you think it's being, has legislation in Parliament that's Anyways, okay.
We're powering on. Love it.
Yes. Local hero brands face an uphill battle to overcome Western brands' dominance and legacy debate.
How good is that timing of that question?
Oh my God, so perfect.
It's almost like it's written in stars.
Look, I always say it because of the giving movement today, and especially now. That's something that I'm saying to our investors, saying that we are positioned in such a perfect time because we are from the region, to know the region, and to grow in the region. There's context to say, are we talking about international brands in the region? Or are we talking about, regional brands or homegrown brands globally? The thing is that I use the example of Saddle, okay, where Saddle has opened now, a lot of support and whatever that you want, but it's really the community has followed their community to where they go as well. So it's not about I'm opening in London because London's cool. I'm opening in London because my community goes there. My daughter just came back from London. When I called her a few days ago,
Knightsbridge. South Kent, Gloucester Road.
No, she was in Mayfair. She was not doing the typical, though.
Oh, yeah, Mayfair's a million miles away.
But, she wasn't like Rania. In that, my brother's always giving us help. You Dubaians, you go to London and you just don't.
Belgravia Square, yeah.
The Arabian Square. But so I told her, where are you going? And she goes, we're going to Saddle. I'm like, Mama, you're in London. But I love the fact that it opened in, in south of France. It opened in London. It opened in, I think, Courchevel. But the idea is that there is proper homegrown loyalty and love.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to these brands. And that's what we want to create.
Look, Emirates for me is the OG.
Oh my God.
It's the OG.
Totally.
It's the OG.
Totally.
Now,
for
Emirates.
Me to Z.
Yeah.
It's not just about the brand. Even like you're number one in service. Number one.
Everything. And I think even now, globally, you ask anyone. Yeah. Emirates features in the top 10, unless maybe in the US because they don't travel much outside of the US.
I mean, my 9-year-old would get pissed off when we're not traveling Emirates.
So I think it's for me it's the biggest example of a local hero that's done it globally. Then you're starting to see small shoots. Recently, the fixed chocolate thing, right? Mm-hmm. In the region, local brand, whatever you say, like or not like, what they've done locally as a local brand has been amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Giving movement is now part of that sort of ecosystem. I want it to be extremely successful. So what's stopping giving movement becoming a mainstream retail option in the US, in Europe, in the Far East?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The vision right now, I mean, don't forget, it's still a baby. We were born 5 years ago. So the giving movement today, our biggest, we have a lot of support. And like you said, you used Fix and Emirates as examples here. DET, all the government, everything, the minute that they saw that this is a potential brand that will represent us, okay, put a lot of support. The day that I was announced CEO, and before that, I know from the teams, okay, I got a call and a message from DET. What can we do to support?
Nice.
So therefore, this is what's important, because what you see around the world, craft is dying in some places. Homegrown brands don't have a chance. And I see it in a lot of places because it has to be top down, not just bottoms up. Okay, bottoms up, we're going to do it. We're going to create the best product. We're going to make sure that
You have to make noise, but big
community-
boys need to come in.
Yeah, you need to open doors, and that's going to happen. I know the Harrods team quite well, and I've worked on their Harrods Hive initiative, and I was so proud when I heard that they took 2-3 homegrown concepts to Harrods.
Yeah.
Quinoa being one of them, which is the amazing ramen place. There was a couple, I can't remember on the top of my head, but that's what we need more people internationally to look for, because the homegrown brands anywhere in the world, not just because they're, have a much better pulse on community and culture than the big mega ones, because once you scale to the big mega, it becomes very corporate.
Is there a logic that will suggest if you are, let's say, a UAE brand,
Yes.
you will not get a lot of support, let's say, in Egypt?
No. Egyptians are...
Or in Saudi or in Qatar? Is there any level of inter-regional jealousy of seeing other brands flourish? Because if you look at...
We are born in Dubai. We're an Arab Middle Eastern brand.
I'm with you. But look at Emirates, look at Etihad, look at Qatar Airways. Now they're launching, obviously in Saudi, what they're doing with Riyadh Air. So there's a lot of healthy competition, but there is competition fundamentally.
Absolutely.
Do we need more giving movement style, if you like, one in Egypt, one in Saudi,
100%.
to help elevate the overall region?
For sure. And today, if you look at our T-shirts, where would you, that I always say, I think we've said this before, that when you go to buy these necklaces and things with names, I've never found my name anywhere, right, in the world.
Really? Rania?
Yeah, where would you find it outside of the Middle East? It's always Sarah and Lucy and, and Sophie and Stephanie and etc. So it's the same thing here. You go to the T-shirt store in the Giving Movement, and you have the Dubai, Abu Dhabi, you have the Egypt, you have Palestine, you have Jordan. That feels like, okay, great. And they buy it because they want to be able to wear something like that. My point is that we are the closest to our region, to hear what's happening in the street, to know what the culture wants, and to make sure that we create not only stories. It's not just about adapting our brand to a story that resonates, also our product.
Yeah.
So that's 100% within our vision.
So if you like, the first 0 to 5 years was create yourself as a local hero. Now it's about creating yourself as a regional hero.
But it was still regional back then.
Always from the beginning. That was always planned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It got a lot of love. Saudi used to represent a huge percentage of our sales. Today, we're going to be very bullish on Saudi. And we are creating...
Even with what's going on now? Everything that's going on? No impact on sales so far?
Oh, of course, we have impact on sales, but it's not going to stop us from continuing our plans and our vision. We want to create, the best basically service possible in Saudi Arabia, because everybody wants to receive same day. We have plans to open a store in Riyadh, inshallah, one day soon. And we want to work with, wherever we go, we want to work with local creatives and local content creators, designers, and craft. So that's really important for us. It's not,
Love it. There might be a question in there on that. You never know.
Oh, that's why you're...
If you get it now, it'll be great.
In modern marketing, is it? What's more likely to win, brand persuasion or personal pull?
And that's talking about the influencers, content creators.
TikTok has shifted things completely from brands inspiring to people inspiring. I think TikTok did that, not even Instagram, because Instagram, content creators were there, but there was still a lot of influence coming from the brand on what the content creators need to do, because they were being paid, most of them by the brand.
Photoshopped, it was being managed, it was being...
and we moved from a magazine that was being shot to us going through people displaying their own style and their own thing, but it was still managed by the brand, right? Whereas TikTok, and look at Fix as an example. I mean, Fix had been building for a while, Fix chocolate, before that huge TikToker did the viral video. So I think that obviously whoever is going to pick up your product and have that viral moment has to be somebody that was influenced by something you did, either the product quality or, the content that you created. So it's still but I think nowadays it's the community that leads.
So what are you banking more on? Telling a great brand story, right? Or having others tell it for you in their own way?
Both. I mean, the brand story, I'll tell you why it's very important, because this is our moment to be as clear and as authentic as possible on building who we stand for. Nobody's going to know who you stand for just by your product and by visuals on e-commerce.
And also, it's still a young brand.
Exactly. And it's really important because one of our key pillars are culture and community, and regional relevance. So that's extremely important. But we want, and we're moving a lot on making sure that our community speaks and our community is featured and our community, inshallah, very soon comes back to events and comes back to interacting with each other, because I still don't have the exact data on this, but this is a brand that's completely word of mouth.
Like, I'll be happy to wear a Giving Movement t-shirt. Season 7.
Yalla.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Yalla.
I'm happy to support whatever I can do.
Yalla, we're there.
Let's do another one. I think there should be one more in there, or is it two more?
I have one more.
Okay, there we go.
Yay, I'm a good student.
Ronnie will be proud. Your giant mug.
No, he's a tough one. Do we give to serve others, or is it more about soothing ourselves?
So the giving movement, the primary reason why it's about helping other people as well, right?
Mm.
Do we help other people for them, or is it to help us?
The story of the giving movement was started, by a gentleman called Dominic. And when Dominic came up with the idea, it wasn't because he wanted to make a fashion brand. So the story did not come after he made the t-shirts. The story of the t-shirts came, the project, because of the giving idea. So, it's a long story, but basically he heard somebody speak about their plans to build, an educational movement, an institution in Delhi. And he said, why don't we create a t-shirt, and then, these funds will go, a percentage of the profits will go to that, and etc. And that's how it started.
So can you share what that is, what the mechanic is of how much you guys give?
So it used to be linked to a percentage of each piece. Okay.
Each item.
Now that we have scaled, okay, we have a line in our P&L that is just dedicated, which is a percentage of our profits. Because it's extremely important that a brand is able to sustain, okay, and stay profitable.
What I'm going to ask you next.
Go ahead.
What am I going to ask you next? You know what I'm going to ask you next.
No.
What's the percentage?
I can't say. I can't say that, but it's part of our foundation. It's like, anytime there will be no percentage put on marketing, there's no percentage put on, on giving back.
Have you ever thought about making it transparent how much you want to give back?
It's not about the how much, it's what impact are you creating. So it used to be about the how much, which was $4 per t-shirt. Okay. But as a consumer today, I don't care.
No.
I want to know what you're doing with my money. Now, the great thing about Dubai, and this is where we have our partnership, is with Dubai Cares, right? And Dubai Cares vets every charity and vets equity. But giving is not just charitable money, right? That goes to these charities. And this is where it's really important for us to make sure to make the transparency around the tangible things and impact that are being created. The school and how it's up and running in New Delhi, the students and how that changed their lives, the clean water that is happening in these places, the giving to the displaced in Gaza, the giving to the displaced in Beirut. So that's where the shift is really happening when it comes to that. But you'll see that giving is not just the output, it's part of the complete DNA of the brand. Our culture, people join us because of that DNA. We participate to a lot of different, NGOs. We hire It's very much within to hire people with determination as well, to see how we can, as employees, go to these schools and support people. So there's a few pillars when it comes to it. I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but there's a few pillars, and some of them are not necessarily just money driven.
So outside of the giving movement, when people are giving to charities, are they doing it to help the other person?
Yeah.
Or are they doing it to make themselves feel better?
If they talk about it, they're doing it to say that to make themselves feel better. And the ones that I admire, I don't know if I'm sure that you've read that George Michael passed away and nobody knew how much he was giving. Just like, that's when it's to give the other people. And it's the same thing with leadership. There's this term that was coined recently, and I remember during my transformation we used to call it servant leadership. And leaders that don't understand, such as some, leaders nowadays in this world, that don't understand that they are here to serve their people, then they're not really giving anything.
So I've got some good news for you. There's one more ball.
Oh, yeah, the year.
It's a blank ball. There's nothing on it. So you can spare your eyes.
Okay.
You've had an incredible career and a life. Like you're still not even halfway through. Out of everything that you've been through, that you've learned, that you've experienced, what is that one insight that you would like to share with people? The one key message that you'd like to share that you think most people, nearly everybody, needs to know?
Oh my God! And you didn't prepare me for this.
I don't prepare for anything.
No, you did not.
Except a mug.
Except my mug, my naughty mug.
So that one insight that's really specific to you, everything that you've learned, all your experiences, what's brought you here, what do people need to know?
I have it on my website, and I think about it because it kind of encompasses everything that life is. Because at the end of the day, life is just this journey. We're born, we live, we die, and then it's, the cycle. What's the point of it, right? And it's a saying that I think Picasso, I know that it was by Picasso, but basically the purpose of, I'm going to kill it right now, I'm going to butcher, but basically the purpose of your life and everything that you learn is that at a certain point, you're supposed to teach it back and leave that impact. So you're not here to just take in this life. You need to be doing all of this in order for you at a certain point to be giving back before your time is gone.
So what are you giving
impact.
Back? So what are you giving back?
My voice nowadays is really, like I said, I've reached the level where I know myself, where I know what I stand for. I try to use it today to scale messages when it comes to, first of all, being a good person, giving back, talking on behalf of the people that can speak, the underprivileged and, the marginalized, etc., and really speak my truth when it comes to this. But as a woman today, it's very dear to me and very dear to my heart to give back to other generations of women, to show them and to speak about my path, to see where it's okay to be who you are, and how basically you need to play a role in society that's much bigger than inside your head. And you could do this. We have superpowers. And like I said, as a woman, that nurturing superpower is given to us for a reason. And there was a time women in history were a lot more heard and a lot more impactful than many many of the past decades where we've had to, be subdued to a different environment.
We started talking about how much you love to get stuff done, to do stuff.
Yeah.
And now you're basically saying women can do it. They can do much, much more.
I mean, we can do whatever we want to do. This is the thing. It's not about saying do more. It's do what you want to do, not what is dictated by society of you to do.
It's again really easy to say, difficult to do, but you're walking it. You're doing what you need to do, what you want to do. And Rania, I sincerely wish you all the very best. I love the brand. It fits you. The more I see you, the more I like you. I can't say I love you yet. I love you. Disingenuous. I love that. But I sincerely wish you all the very, very best. We want you to be successful. The region wants you to be successful. The people that will detract, F them. think about that. You are an effing boss. So best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
Go kick some ass. I wish 2026 is the year of the horse, the fiery horse, or whatever it's supposed to be. No donkeys, no ponies. And we'll speak very, very soon. But all the very best.
Thank you. It's been a blast. Thank you so much.